And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generations.
The Eternal Light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations make free time available to present The Eternal Light, a program which comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Our program today, It's a Long Walk to Jerusalem, was written by Mark Siegel. It is based on a story written by Miriam Bly Grotto entitled 1 Foot from Yemen to Israel. The program is presented in celebration of the 8th anniversary of the establishment of the State of Israel.
That's David singing, David Ben Ezra. When I hear his voice, something happens to me, something indescribable. For his voice says, to me at least, anything is possible if you have the faith and patience. Anything. There's nothing so extraordinary about the voice of a boy preparing for his bar mitzvah, certainly not here in Jerusalem. There are other boys right here in this children's home right at this very minute chanting the traditional melodies which are part of the symbolic ceremony of becoming a man at the age of 13. But David is different, for his voice says something special to me. His voice says, it's a long walk to Jerusalem. Until one night 8 months ago, David Ben Ezra was not known as David Ben Ezra. He was Daoud Damari, one of 6 sons and daughters of an Arab family living in the city of Damar in the feudal land of Yemen. That night, it was a cool night, one of those nights when even the jackals do not feel like howling. Daoud slept soundly, surrounded by his family, who lay wrapped in their rugs on the floor of the clay hut which Daoud had thought always was his home.
Daoud. Wake up, Daoud.
What is it, my mother?
Quiet, Daoud. You will wake the others.
What does my mother want?
Come outside to the courtyard.
Now, my mother?
Now and quietly.
Silently, the boy followed his mother to the huge grindstone in the courtyard. Silently, he waited for her to speak.
Daoud, hear me. For weeks I have struggled with my soul, but now the time has come. I must tell you.
Tell me what, my mother?
Listen then. Daoud, you are not my son. I love you, my child, but you are not my son.
If I am not my mother's son, then who am I?
10 summers ago it was, Daoud, that your mother and your father died in the great pestilence. Miriam was her name.
Miriam?
And your father's name, Ezra.
Ezra? That's a strange name.
And you, Daoud, truly your name is David. David ben Ezra.
Miriam, Ezra, David.
My child, do not weep.
Forgive me, Forgive me, Shafika.
I forgive you, little one. May you forgive me.
Shafika, why do you tell me now? Why in the middle of the night? Why now and not before?
Daoud, hear me, child. When your mother gave you to me, she made me take a vow.
A vow?
It was her dying wish, Daoud.
What was her wish, Shafika?
That in the 13th spring of your life, Daoud, you should walk through the gates of the city of Jerusalem.
Jerusalem? Where is Jerusalem?
To the north, Daoud, far to the north.
And how am I to get there?
You must walk.
But why? Why does my mother wish me to walk to Jerusalem?
It is the holy city of your people, Daoud.
Of my people? Are we not of the same people, Shafika?
Daud, your mother Miriam was a Jew. Your father Ezra was a Jew. You are a Jew. Now make haste, my child. Go before you are stopped and questioned. And may Allah be with you.
Eight months ago it was, in the city of Damar in Yemen, that the woman Shafika, weeping silently, pressed a few denarii, all that she had, into the palm of David ben Ezra and sent him forth into the night. In his arms she placed a sack of food she had prepared, and across his shoulders the only shawl she owned. And around his neck she fastened a small chain, and from the chain there hung a little six-pointed star of gold, the only legacy of David's mother Miriam. Through the silent streets of Damar, David walked as the city slept, northward towards the countryside, as Shafika had told him he must walk. Northwards, fingering the six-pointed star which Shafika had told him would protect him. Northwards, a 12-year-old child thrust abruptly into a new and frightening world, struggling with questions he could not answer.
What was my mother like? Was she beautiful? Why did she want me to go to Jerusalem in the 13th spring of my life? Why am I not a Muslim like everybody else? Why did Shafika tell me to tell no one I am Jewish?
A 12-year-old boy in Yemen must have lived as a Jew to know why it is unsafe to say he is Jewish. David did not know that in his native Yemen, Jews must live below the level of the streets, so that under no circumstance may a Jew look down upon an Arab. All that David knew was that Shafika had told him he must fulfill his mother's dying wish. He must walk to Jerusalem. At first, he asked those he met,
How far is it to Jerusalem?
but no one seemed to know. Soon, David's question changed.
Which way is it to Jerusalem?
Still, he found no one who could answer. And finally, his question became more general.
Which road goes north?
The roads went northward through the bleached desert lands of Yemen, and on them walked a weary child of 12, his black eyes wondering about his past and future, his throat parched with thirst. In the marketplace of Tuah, shadowed by the Asarat Mountains to the north, David learned that distance was not the only obstacle he would have to surmount.
Merchant, this water bottle, what is its price?
Ah, that one is expensive, boy. It is a big one. Too big a water bottle for so small a boy.
It is a big one I need, sir.
As you wish. It is half a dinar. You had that much.
I think so, sir.
Good. I will count out your change.
Merchant, a last question.
What now?
Which road goes north?
North? You are mistaken, little traveler. You cannot go north.
Because of the mountains? I'm not afraid of the mountains.
The mountains are hard enough, boy, yet those a man may cross, but not the border.
Not the what?
The border, where the country ends and a new country begins.
Why is it so hard to cross, merchant? Is it a wall, then? Too high to climb?
It is no wall, boy, but there are soldiers there. They will not let you pass.
I must go anyway.
Listen to me, little fool. I do not know you, and I do not know where you're going. But do not try to cross the border.
If you will give me my change, sir.
Do you know what is done to those who are caught trying to smuggle themselves across the border?
No, sir, I don't. But if I may have my
The
change...
punishment is chopping off.
Chopping off? Of what?
A hand, an ear, a head, what does it matter? That is the punishment. Hey, boy, wait a minute. Where are you going? Come back, boy! Come back! Come back!
Hiding by day, walking by night, David ben Ezra, aged 12, made his way into the steep range of the Asarat Mountains, approaching now the border between Yemen and Saudi Arabia. He had begun to think he had already crossed the border when one night he felt a large hand grasp him firmly by the arm.
Not so fast, boy, not so fast. Mohammed, this way, I have another.
Please, sir. My arm. You're hurting my arm.
Enjoy the hurt while you still have the arm, boy. Where are your papers?
What papers, sir?
No papers, huh? Too bad. Mohammed, come here. I have a smuggler. The smallest one you ever saw carrying the biggest water bottle you ever saw.
Please, sir. Please.
Stop squirming, you little devil. There. That's better. Now be still. Mohammed, where the devil are you?
May I...
What now?
May I have a drink of water from my water bottle?
A drink? All right, have your drink.
Thank you, sir.
But do not try to run. If you run, I shall have to shoot you.
Do you wish a drink, sir?
Good. Give me the water bottle.
Here it is, sir. May you use it well.
Halt! Halt, you little fool! Halt! I'll shoot!
He was not wounded. He had crossed a border. He had learned that he must use guile if necessary to survive. Again, he turned his face northward towards Jerusalem. It was 3 months after he had left Yemen that David Ben Ezra stood begging on a street in Taif in the kingdom of Hejaz, his hair long and matted, his feet raw and bleeding, his clothes in tatters.
Please, something for food.
A swaying 12-year-old who had forgotten how to cry, begging for a morsel to appease the hunger of a starving body. Most passed him by, but one who had passed him, noticing something, returned.
Please, something
Here
for
are
food.
a few coins, my son.
Thank you, sir. May Allah shower his blessings on you. Thank you.
Allah, where do you live, my son?
On the road,
On the road to where, my child?
to the north.
To the north of what?
To the north. Only to the north. Forgive me, sir. Please let me go now to buy food.
Before you go, child, answer one question.
What question?
That gold star I see through your rags, where did you get it?
The stranger took David to his house. With his wife, he nursed the boy back to health, and with his wife, he taught David about his people. For the stranger was a Jew, the first Jew David Ben Ezra had ever known.
Call me Uncle Yosef, David, Uncle.
Are you my uncle, then?
No, I am not. On the other hand, you can use an uncle.
Then tell me, Uncle Yosef, about the star.
More about the star?
All you know.
There is much more to know than just about the Star of David, child. Much more.
And when will I learn the much more?
When, David? All your life, I hope. All of your life.
The days passed, and the child grew strong again. And a day came when he stood before the stranger who was no longer a stranger, and said,
It is time for me to go, Uncle Yosef.
And the stranger who was no longer a stranger, who was 6 times David's age, sat down and tried to reason with him.
David, we aren't going to let you go. It would be better for you to stay with us.
But I promised Shafika, and soon it will be spring, and my mother...
I know, child, I know, but it is still far to Jerusalem.
It can't be very far now. It can't.
It is, David.
Very far? How far?
Can you remember how far you have come, David?
Yes, I remember.
Then listen to me, son. From here to Jerusalem, it is farther than the distance you have already walked.
How far does one send a child of 12 alone? Across a few city streets? To a neighboring village, perhaps, on an errand? With a leader on an outing of a few miles? David Ben Ezra had walked alone 600 miles. Between him and the city of Jerusalem were still 850 miles of desert and mountainous terrain.
Even so, I must go. I must.
No, not alone.
Then you come with me, Uncle Yosef.
I am old, too old.
Too old to go to Israel? To see the star on the flag?
Too old to smuggle myself across the border, David.
I'll show you how.
Too old to hide, too old to run. You will not stay with me, David?
I want to, Uncle Yosef, but I promise.
Yes, I know. If you will not stay, David, let me think how you are to get to Jerusalem. Let me think and make a plan.
The city of Taif, in which Joseph lived, is not far from Mecca, the holy city of the Muslim world. To Mecca each year the pilgrims come from all the Arab lands, and it was that time of year in which the annual pilgrimage is made. On these facts, Joseph constructed his plan.
You will go to Mecca, David.
To Mecca? It is to Jerusalem I must go.
To Jerusalem by way of Mecca, then.
When, Uncle Yosef?
Tomorrow, David.
Tomorrow. I will remember you, Uncle Yosef, all the days of my life. All of them.
Please, my child. No partings yet.
But if I'm to go tomorrow...
David, you have walked enough alone. Do you think I would let you go to Mecca without me?
Together they walked from Taif to Mecca. Mecca crowded by Muslim pilgrims from all of Jordan and Arabia, from Iraq and Iran, but more important for the plan, also from Lebanon and Syria. To a part of the city where the Syrian pilgrims hawked their goods upon the streets, Joseph the Jew led the 12-year-old boy David, looking for one who would fit his plan.
Knives of steel, good knives of steel, cheap knives of steel.
Peace, good pilgrim, peace.
Peace unto you, my brother. Feel the blade, my brother. I'll let you have it cheap.
It is a good blade, but I do not need one.
Then why do you stop me?
To ask from what land you come to our holy Mecca.
From Syria, my friend, from the city of Damascus.
From Damascus? Then you are the very one.
The very one?
My brother, it is fate that leads me to you.
Fate? It may be so, but for what purpose?
This boy, whom I hold by the hand, is also from Damascus.
And what has that to do with me? Go, old man, and leave me in peace. Knives of steel!
My brother, listen to me. I will pay you well.
Pay me for what?
For the act of mercy you will perform. This boy, his parents perished in the fire which swept the mosque but yesterday. Will you take him back to Damascus with you?
It is enough for me to care for my wives and my many children.
I will pay you well. More than you need to feed him.
Is he strong? Are you a strong boy? You're not sick?
I am not sick, sir.
Can you care for a camel?
Oh, yes. Yes, I can care for a camel.
That's a long way to Damascus, boy, and the camels are for the women. Are you sure you're strong enough to walk?
Strong enough to walk? Oh, yes. Yes, I'm sure I'm strong enough to walk.
For a month, David walked with the Syrian pilgrims northward through the Arabian Peninsula. There was food, thanks to Joseph's generosity, and there were kindly people around him. But now the enemy was fear. Fear that his secret would become known and he would be turned back. In the 6th month of his journey, David ben Ezra crossed the border of the Kingdom of Jordan with thousands of Muslim pilgrims. Under cover of night, he slipped away from the Syrian pilgrims with whom he had come. Under cover of night, he began to walk the width of Jordan. And now the words he spoke to himself were words of hope.
Soon, soon, soon.
And he told himself,
it is near now. It is near now. It is near now.
And only the smallest voice said,
just one more border. Only one. But that is the best guarded of all.
It was to the city of Aqaba that he went, as Joseph had told him he must. And one night in the 7th month since he had left the land of Yemen, he crouched on the rim of the Gulf of Aqaba and looked across the dark waters to the lights of Elat in the land of Israel.
Oh, Mother. Oh, my mother, help me now.
Silently he waited till the last lights of Eilat were gone. And then David Ben Ezra began to run, as fast and as silently as he could. His mouth went dry and his heart pounded inside his small chest, and he clutched the gold star at his throat, and his voice raised itself in a prayer.
Not the last border. Please, not the last border.
And as he ran, he remembered to whom he prayed. He remembered the words the old man Joseph had taught him.
Please, not the last border. Lord God of Israel, not the last border.
For more than an hour he ran, until he was almost sure he had reached the land of his fathers.
No. Oh, no. Oh, no. Please, please, Almighty God.
Not to that moment did he see who pursued him. Not to that moment did he see the flag flying from the guard tower. A flag with the Star of David.
Here! I am here! This way! This way! This way!
They took him to Israeli army headquarters at Eilat, and he told his story. The unbelievable story of a child who had walked almost 1,300 miles to be in Jerusalem for the 13th spring of his life. But to the commander at Eilat, the story was believable. Perhaps he remembered certain other Jews who wandered for 40 years in the desert to reach the land of Israel.
Well, David, we'll see that you're in Jerusalem tomorrow.
In Jerusalem tomorrow? But I can't walk that fast.
Your little walk is over, son. We'll send you there by jeep.
Jeep?
An automobile, David. You'll ride to Jerusalem.
But I don't want to ride to Jerusalem. I must walk to Jerusalem.
You must... Why?
Because that was my mother's wish, that I walk to Jerusalem.
David, your mother didn't mean that you had to walk. She meant that she wanted you to be there.
Shafika told me. She said walk. I want to walk the rest of the way.
The word went out. From army post to army post, through the Negev, David Ben Ezra walked, escorted by patrols of Israeli soldiers. Northwards he walked, from Eilat, where King Solomon mined for copper, to Beersheba, where his ancestor Abraham tended cattle, to the gates of Jerusalem, the city of David, after whom he had been named. And in the 13th spring of his life, David had come home. It is a true story, and when I hear his voice, I think always, it's a long walk to Jerusalem. But the voice of David Ben Ezra means more than that to me, for it seems to me that every man carries his own Jerusalem in his heart, his own city of brotherhood, his city of love, his city of peace. And when I am discouraged or fearful of tomorrow, I think of David Ben Ezra. For it's a long walk to Jerusalem, a hard walk. But if you have the faith and patience, you can get there. You can get there.
And now we take great pleasure in presenting Dr. Harry Orlinsky, Professor of Bible at Hebrew Union College, Jewish Institute of Religion in New York City. Dr. Orlinsky.
It was indeed a long walk for David from Yemen to Jerusalem. Yet to those who have studied the Bible and Jewish history, little David's walk is not really surprising or unique. As David's story was unfolding, I was reminded of another walk that the pitiful but proud remnants of a once great sovereign people, made just about 2,500 years ago the trek of a few thousand Jews in Babylonian captivity. Unable to contain themselves in a prosperous and sophisticated land, now set free by the Persian government of Cyrus the Great, they set forth along the Fertile Crescent from the land of their Babylonian exile to the land of their Judean fathers. For them, too, there were barren mountains and parched valleys, birds of prey and thirst. But faith and patience can surmount much. The prophet Isaiah knew this when he exhorted his fellow Judean exiles in the famous chapter of consolation to prepare for the return to Jerusalem. He said, "A voice calls out in the wilderness, prepare the Lord's highway, make straight in the desert a road to our God. Every valley shall be lifted up, and every mountain and hill shall be made low." This was the first time in history that a conquered and uprooted people regained its sovereignty. And the long walk to Jerusalem was not to be achieved again by anyone until the Jews of Poland and Lithuania, of Russia and Romania, of the concentration camps, and the very doors of the crematoria accomplished once again this fabulous feat of faith and patience, this determined denial that they were but a fossil of an extinct society. On the eve of this 8th year of Yom Ha'atzmaut, Israel Independence Day, let all the peoples of the Near East understand that the long walk from Yemen to Jerusalem signifies literally also the long walk from feudalism to democracy, from slavery to freedom.
Thank you, Dr. Orlinsky. Our Eternal Light drama today was It's a Long Walk to Jerusalem, written by Mark Siegel, and based on a story by Miriam Bly Grotto entitled 1 Foot from Yemen to Israel, which appeared in the Jewish Horizon magazine, published by Hapoel HaMizrahi of America. Today's broadcast was presented in celebration of the 8th anniversary of the establishment of the State of Israel. The music was composed by Morris Momorsky and conducted by Roy Shield. Cantor David Putterman sang the liturgical introduction. Featured in the cast were David Pfeffer, Abby Lewis, Burford Hampton, Louis Van Ruten, Edward Jerome, and Roger de Koven. The singer, Hannah Amsterdam Kligfeld, the narrator, Alexander Scourby. This is Mel Brandt, and this has been an NBC Radio Network production, directed by Daniel Sutter. This weekly program is presented under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. This is the NBC Radio Network.